Happy Wednesday, sophomores, or happy hump day, which is the middle of the week. Let's get started with week 8, lesson 36. But first, the joke of the day. Why did the restaurant hire a pig? He was good at bacon. Like baking, but bacon because he's a pig. So we are on day 3 of week 8. The video you should be watching right now is ELA G10W8L36. The text, as you know, is a dose of what the doctor never orders. And today you're going to be analyzing the text specifically for extended metaphors. And lesson 36 materials are found directly below the lesson plan, so make sure you read to learn what materials you need for today. The learning target for today is I can analyze in detail an author's use of extended metaphor by applying my knowledge of metaphors to uncover multiple levels of meaning. You've all looked at extended metaphors in previous texts, but today we're going to look at the extended metaphor of the millionaire pill and what potential layers of meaning are behind that pill. Let's talk about the read, think, talk, write protocol for today. For the read section, you're going to reread paragraph 3 of the text, which contains the nostrum or blank, which we'll define later. It's also defined in the text, that the wealthy man refers to as the millionaire pill. So really read whatever you need to read to remind yourself what happened in the text, but definitely reread paragraph 3 and focus specifically on the part where the wealthy man refers to the millionaire pill. And then for the think section, if you had to come up with a recipe for success, what would be the ingredients? You can define success any way that you want. In the text, obviously, they define success as having a lot of money, being a millionaire, but success can mean anything that you want it to mean. And document your thoughts with words, pictures, or percentages on your note catcher. You don't have to write out a paragraph. You can actually just respond with words, pictures, or percentages. And just a friendly reminder that you have space for this on your note catcher. For the talk section today, you're going to talk about the following questions with someone. Reference paragraph 3 and note what the 2 largest parts of the wealthy man's prescription are. What are the 2 smallest parts? Discuss whether you agree with the importance he places on the individual parts. So you got to think about what are the 2 largest parts of the millionaire pill, what are the 2 smallest parts, and then you have to discuss whether you agree or disagree with the importance he places on each of those parts. Should maybe one of the smaller parts be a larger part, or larger part, smaller part, so on and so on. For the right section, you're going to, on your note catcher, respond to the following question. For what reasons might family, trade, and work after hours be the biggest portions of the millionaire pill? How does Jinbi respond to these suggestions? So you got to figure out, why do you think family, trade, and work after hours might be the wealthy man's largest portions of the millionaire pill? And then you also have to determine how does Jinbi respond to these suggestions. So how does he actually take that advice that family, trade, and work after hours should be the biggest portions of the pill? And just don't forget that you actually have to write your response to the note catcher. There's a whole space for it there. And then finally, you're going to close out with first sharing your writing with someone, and then you're going to read a book for 20 minutes and document your reading in the reading log. So the quick model today is around the millionaire pill and really just picking apart the different components of the pill. Before we engage in the quick model, I wanted to go over different elements of the read, think, talk, write protocol. Again, just the read, talk, write part today, just to make sure we're all on the same page of what you have to actually get done in this lesson, specifically in reference to the millionaire pill. And that is important to talk about now before we actually engage in the model so we don't miss anything. So for the read section, you're going to focus on really just paragraph 3, reread it if you have to, because this is the paragraph that introduces the millionaire pill and talks about it. And then here are the different parts of the millionaire pill, which you'll see when you go back in the text and reread paragraph 3. I just wanted to put them here because we're going to reference them a lot. For the talk section, you have to reference the paragraph and these parts of the pill and note which of the 2 parts are the largest of the prescription, what are the 2 smallest parts, and discuss whether you agree with the importance he places on individual parts. So this is the time when you get to not only identify the 2 largest parts of the prescription, 2 smallest parts of the prescription of the millionaire pill, but also you get to insert your own opinion and say whether you agree or disagree with the importance that he places on the individual parts. So you're really thinking about if you were creating your own millionaire pill, but with these same 5 components, Do you agree with the importance that he has placed on them, or would you change the importance around and make certain parts worth more or less? And I have this arrow here because that's where we're going to focus most of our time on today. I'm going to just really support you in identifying the two largest parts and the two smallest parts, which is pretty easy, but then having a conversation about each of the parts together, but also individually. And then the writing section today, you have to write a response to this question. For what reasons might family, trade, and work after hours be the biggest portions of the millionaire pill? How does Jin B respond to these suggestions? So the talk part was, personal opinion. The right part is really just supposed to be objective and thinking about like the time period of the text, the culture, what you know about the characters, like for what reasons might the wealthy man suggest that family, trade, and work after hours be the biggest portions of the millionaire pill, but also how does Jin B ultimately respond to these suggestions, not just in the moment, but all throughout the story. Okay, I mentioned that we're going to focus mainly on the talk part of today's lesson. So I have the first part here where it asks you to note what the two largest parts of the wealthy man's prescription are. And I have those in red because I'm going to go over each of the two largest parts of the prescription with you, and I'll circle them in red. So the red will match. It'll be easy just to keep track. It's pretty easy to do on your own, but I wanted to engage in this part with you just because I think it opens the conversation up. And then it sets you up for success to engage in the rest of the lesson, specifically in completing the right section. So obviously the largest part of the prescription is the family trade. That's for 20 parts. And the second largest part is work after hours. That is 10 parts. So let's just quickly talk about both of those. So the family trade is the most. And I think, based on what I know about the characters and the culture of like where these people are from and their personal culture and also the time period, I think the family trade is being suggested as like the most important because in that culture it's like very, which is connected to family. It's like very common for people to make their like wealth through what their family is good at or what their family trade is or what everyone in their family does. So it's just pretty customary to do what like you're sort of like destined to do based on what is true of people in your family, because like class and wealth are very sort of like prominent, or issues of class and wealth, I should say, are very prominent in society. Really any culture, any time period, but specifically in this culture. And you see some of that throughout just based on the people's jobs we learned about and what they do and the focus on wealth as a whole. Work after hours is the second largest, and that's 10 parts. And that's like just, I think that work ethic is a necessary component to like really anyone's success story, or it like really just speaks to this idea that if you're willing to put in extra work and go the extra mile, go above and beyond what's expected of you, then you are more likely to experience more success and get more money. Because those that go overboard, or overboard maybe is the wrong way to put it, but do everything they need to at the bare minimum, but then push above that and go beyond that, are going to be rewarded. So I think this just speaks to the importance of like always working hard. That like you shouldn't just work to have a comfortable life with your family trade. You should always work after hours too, and that's why it's the second highest part. Now the two smallest parts in blue, there as you can see, there aren't just two. There are two that are tied, and then one that is the smallest. So we'll talk about all three of them. So early rising is the smallest part, and I would say this is probably because, like, similar to the work after hours, like if you are up early, you have more opportunities in the day to like make more money and to be more productive. We've all heard of the expression, the early bird gets the worm, right? If you're up before everyone else, then you have more opportunity than everyone else. So not only do you have to work late, you also have to get up early if you really want it. Now the economy and sound health are tied for 7 parts. I think that these are like seen as important, but probably not the most important or least important, even though they're sort of tied for the least important. So with the economy, this is like, it's important to spend and save and just be in budget and be mindful of the economy and what it impacts it could have on you personally or your family. But like ultimately it's not something that's in your control all the time, like working after hours or, you know, getting up early. So it's important, but you can't like spend all your time in the world and thinking about the economy, because a lot of it you can't control. And then sound health is the same reason. Like, of course, you need to be in sound health, physically, mentally, for you know, you to become rich. If you're not healthy, then that doesn't really matter. Like, you're gonna either die or all your money will be spent on medical bills. So it's important to be in sound health and to be able to not like have your life just basically derailed by your health, but also so that you can be strong enough to work after hours and keep up with the family trade and get up early. But again, it's also something you can't necessarily control, your health. So that's why it's 7 parts and not like 15 parts. And then the last question is, discuss whether you agree with the importance he places on individual parts. This is your personal opinion, but I'll share my personal opinion, and maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't, but either way, it can get you, thinking about the topic. I personally, you're going to get a chance to do this yourself, would have different components altogether if I could, but this question is really asking you to focus on, of these components, do you agree with the wealthy man's like prioritization of the different parts? And I do agree, but I also disagree. So let me tell you what I mean. So I think it's important to like always go above and beyond and to work extra hours if you can. Not everyone can. Like, if you have a family or you have other obligations, you can't always put in extra work. But I like the idea and the spirit behind like never settling for anything, like always going above and beyond, pushing yourself. Because those, like, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. And so if you're like risking and sacrificing some things to work more, then like if what you're working towards is to get more money, then like ultimately you're going to be rewarded on that front. So I like that component, this like work ethic, that like it's important to always just like push and push and push and never settle. I like the idea of early rising, because I think even though like sometimes people need, you shouldn't like force yourself to get up early in the morning just so you can get up early if you didn't get, go to bed till late, because that will contribute to like poor health and a poor mental state. But I like the idea of like if you're able to get up early and just start your day early, because like, every moment of life is precious and we shouldn't waste most of our time just sleeping. I like that concept too, with some exceptions, as I said. I like the concept of like prioritizing your health and like the economy. Like we should be investing in like things that maybe aren't in our control, but like can really impact us. So we need to be mindful of them. We shouldn't be spending all of our time and resources and money on them, but we need to be mindful of them. The one thing I really disagree with is the family trade, and not to suggest that anyone that like sticks to working in like their family business or what their family has always done are like in fault or at fault. I just think that like I don't think it should be the norm or the custom that like you need to like be a part of your family trade, and especially because it was 20 parts. Like, what if someone is skilled in another area that no one in their family has ever done before? Like, they should feel encouraged and like empowered to go out and like do whatever that makes them happy. And other things can still make people money. Like, you don't have to stick to your family trade. I get why, like in this text, because like family and custom and tradition, especially if you're like in a certain class system, it's hard for you to get out of it, and like you really have to rely on what some of the tools you have around you, which oftentimes is connected to like your family trade. But for me personally, if in the culture that we live in today, like people should be encouraged to work in whatever area they want to work in that's going to make them most happy, but also provide them some level of financial stability. So that's what I would disagree with the most. I would, if I couldn't, I would remove it altogether if I could. But if I can't remove it, which this question is really asking me not to remove it, I would deprioritize and maybe make it one of the lowest parts, because I think it's important to not put people into boxes and force them to do something they don't want to necessarily do for the duration of their life. So that was the model, and that was my 2 cents. You obviously have to complete the writing section, which is probably the most time-consuming part of today's lesson. But also don't forget to go back to the lesson plan and read all the other parts just to remind yourself of like everything you have to do for today's lesson. but hopefully what I shared with you was helpful in thinking about maybe some of the reasons why our wealthy man sort of prioritized things in the way that he did prioritize them in the Millionaire Pill, but also giving you some insight into my own opinion on how he prioritized them, if I would change them or not. So lesson 37 is tomorrow, and the learning target is I can apply decoding skills to language to paraphrase words and sentences in order to connect a piece of writing to present to present day circumstances. You're going to really look at the language and paraphrase the words and sentences in order to connect the writing, which is our text, to present day circumstances. Thank you for learning with me today. As always, it's a pleasure to spend some time with you. Just a few reminders before I go. Number 1, don't forget to talk about your lesson with someone. Number 2, read 20 minutes and complete a reading log entry. The reading log is at the front of your packet. And number 3, practice reading fluency using the first or second page of your weekly reading. And again, directions to that are at the start of your packet, at the top of your packet too. Email your teacher for support if you need any help whatsoever. You should know their email address at this point, but if not, the format is listed here. It's firstname.lastname@detroitk12.org. Have a great rest of your day, and remember, keep learning.